With 3 endgame modes and the recent addition of Lunar Floors in the Imaginarium Theater, plus lunar versions of older reactions, Genshin combat has actually evolved a lot more than most players realize. The combat system, which used to revolve mainly around triggering elemental reactions for bigger damage, is now way more complex than we could have imagined. With new characters, new difficulty levels, and mechanics like Lunar Reactions, it's time we actually understand how the combat system works in detail.
We'll divide this video into 3 sections. First, practical combat, where we break down how combat actually works in-game, including all reaction types, their multipliers, what reverse reactions are, how they function, and how buffs like Resistance Shred and Elemental Mastery make them stronger. Second, team formation, where we discuss the different kinds of teams, such as Hypercarry teams and reaction-heavy teams. We'll also cover how modern teams work with the new Ascendant Gleam and Hexerei buffs, and how these new mechanics completely change team building. Third, rotations and combo guides, especially for newly released characters, explaining how to properly sequence skills and bursts to maximize reaction damage and overall DPS. Before that, we do make a lot of early and mid-game guides, so if you're interested, make sure to check out the full playlist on the channel. So, starting with combat, the first thing that comes to mind is reactions, since the game is fundamentally built around them. But not all reactions are the same, and they definitely don't reward the same damage. For example, when an enemy is affected by Cryo and you apply Pyro, you trigger Melt and deal 2x the original hit. This is the forward melt. But if you apply Cryo on a target already affected by Pyro, you still trigger Melt, yet the multiplier is only 1.5x. This is known as reverse melt. The question is, why? Genshin follows an elemental strong versus weak rule. Whenever a strong element hits a weak element, it fully absorbs the weaker aura and gives you a bigger multiplier. In our Melt example, Pyro is considered stronger than Cryo, so when Pyro hits Cryo, it fully absorbs the Cryo aura and gives a 2x multiplier. But when Cryo hits Pyro, it can't fully absorb the Pyro aura, so you only get a 1.5x multiplier. The same idea applies to Vaporize. Hydro is treated as the supreme element here, so when you apply Hydro on a Pyro target, you get 2x damage. When you apply Pyro on a Hydro target, you still trigger Vaporize, but only at 1.5x. These are what we call forward melt and forward vaporize for the 2x multipliers, and reverse melt and reverse vaporize for the 1.5x ones. This still isn't the full story. We also have different categories of reactions: amplifying reactions, melt and vaporize, transformative reactions like hyperbloom, burgeon, shatter, overloaded, bloom, electrocharged, and superconduct, additive reactions, mainly burning and spread type effects where damage keeps getting applied over time. Amplifying reactions are considered the strongest for single hits because they scale from attack percent, crit rate, crit damage, damage bonuses, and elemental mastery. Transformative reactions, as the name suggests, are reactions that transform into a separate damage instance and only scale from elemental mastery and character level, not from your attack or crit stats. Additive reactions, as the name implies, are reactions that keep adding damage over time. For example, burning, which continuously applies pyro damage until you overwrite it, or spread type effects that keep adding extra damage ticks when the condition is maintained. I'll pop a full chart on screen so you can see each reaction and its multipliers more clearly. With this, we now understand how standard reactions work, what the different reaction types are, and how they scale from attack, EM, and crit stats. But recently, we also received a brand new category, Lunar Reactions, which again work completely differently. Take electrocharged as an example. Previously, it was a transformative reaction that only scaled with elemental mastery and level. Now, with Lunar Charge, the lunar version of electrocharged, the reaction also scales from attack and can crit, making it way stronger than standard electrocharged.
Lunar Bloom is similar. Its scaling is now tied to crit stats as well, instead of being purely EM-based. And with version 6.3, Lunar Crystallize will scale from EM, HP, defense, and crit stats. Because these lunar reactions now scale with crit and other stats on top of elemental mastery, they can deal far more damage than their original versions, which only used elemental mastery. I hope that makes the reaction system a lot clearer. Now, coming to the second topic, teams. Initially, Genshin team building was very simple. There were mainly two types of teams, Hypercarry teams and reaction-heavy teams. Hypercarry teams are generally built around one main DPS who does almost all the damage while the rest of the team focuses on buffing them. For example, in a Mavica Melt team, Mavica is your main DPS. You use Shalonen to provide damage bonuses and resistance shred, Sitlali for off-field cryo application, and Bennett for attack buffs. Together, they trigger powerful melt reactions, and all of these buffs stack to push Mavica's damage extremely high.
On the other hand, transformative reaction teams usually run multiple characters who all contribute damage through reactions. You don't always stack pure buffers. Instead, each character helps trigger reactions like Hyperbloom, Burgeon, or Overloaded, so the team's total damage comes from many different sources. But things have changed a lot recently. Teams are no longer built only around reactions. With Natlan and the Nightsoul mechanics, many characters now have very restrictive conditions in their kits, but if you meet those conditions, they deal far higher damage than older characters. For example, Kenich can feel almost useless if you run him in a standard Bloom team, but he becomes broken when you properly trigger Burning, and he becomes even more busted when you add another Nightsoul character to fully activate his passives. The same goes for units like Veresa and Mavuika. It gets even crazier with nod-krai. Now, not only are character kits more restricted, but sometimes you can't even get full artifact set buffs unless you run another nod-krai member in the team. Nod-krai also introduced two completely new team structures: Ascendant Gleam, which activates with 2 or more nod-krai units, and the Hexerei effect, which activates with 2 or more Hexerei members. Hexerei buffs are quite simple. When you have 2 or more Hexerei members, the team gains special bonuses. Some are unique to the characters themselves, while others are team-wide buffs. For example, Venti gains additional Anemo-infused arrow effects, and Sucrose provides extra damage bonus buffs, making both of them much stronger in these setups. Now, coming to Ascendant Gleam teams, you don't just gain buffs for the nod-krai character who triggers it, you also get buffs for non-nod-krai characters based on specific conditions. I'll pop those details on screen so you can check them clearly. These small details become extremely important in the long term, especially when you start clearing endgame content like Abyss, Stygian, or Lunar Floors. And if you want to see the best weapons and artifacts for clearing Abyss with a step-by-step roadmap, we already made a full video, so do check it out. Now coming to rotations, how to actually play after understanding reactions and buffs. In early Genshin, combat was all about managing cooldowns and triggering reactions for max damage, but as bosses became stronger and tankier, the way rotations worked changed a lot. Let's go step by step. Step 1. Start with your buffers or supports. In a team, there are always off-field units who contribute through buffs or damage, like Jinkyu with Hydro application and personal damage, or Sitlali with shielding, resistance shred, and cryo application. You should always set these units up first. How do you decide who goes first? Simple. Look at cooldowns. You generally start with the character who has the longest cooldown and end the rotation with the one who has the shortest cooldown. Step 2, for characters like Veresa and Mavuika who seem simple, you can massively increase their damage by using proper combos, like Mavuika dash cancels, Veresa skill into plunge chains, and even Nefer dash cancels. Characters like Kenich can also do quick scope tech to fire more shots, drastically increasing damage. We can't cover every character's rotation here, but I highly recommend checking their individual guides. There are many breakdowns available online. I hope this video helped give you a basic but complete understanding of Genshin's modern combat system. Do check out the other videos for deeper breakdowns, and feel free to ask if you have any confusion. Until then,